Hey guys, today we are beginning chapter 12 with lesson 1, which is about relative pronouns. Relative pronouns are something that I can seem kind of confusing. It's kind of one of those things where if you don't get it yet, it seems really confusing, and then once you get it, I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's not so hard. But there's kind of a learning curve to get over. So be patient with yourself and um, make sure to ask me a lot of questions if you're not understanding things, right? So, relative pronouns. They are used to combine two sentences or two clauses that share a common element. And this is in English as well as Spanish. Okay? So, for example, we've got a sentence: my boyfriend gave me some some strawberries. Two, I am allergic to strawberries. We can combine this all into one sentence by saying, I am allergic to the strawberries that my boyfriend gave me. And the word that would be our relative pronoun, linking those two pieces together. Okay. Here's one more example. Julie and Bob are not very bright. Julie and Bob cheated on their test. We can put this all in one sentence with a relative pronoun. Julie and Bob, who are not very bright, cheated on their test, with who being our relative pronoun in that sentence. Okay. Okay, so in Spanish, there are three main relative pronouns, and they are que, quien, and lo que. And I sort of gave you what they mean in English, but it's not very helpful, right? You can see there's a lot of overlap in what they can literally mean. So you kind of need to throw out the idea that que always means what, quien always means who, or whatever. That's not how it works in Spanish. We're going to have our own set of rules to determine which of these three we're going to use in our Spanish sentences. Also want to point out while we're here, notice that quien could be plural quienes, all one word, if you're talking about more than one person. Okay, so let's talk about our rules using que first of all. Okay, que is the most common relative pronoun. It can refer to things or to people. For example, where is the the waffle machine that I bought? That right here, our relative pronoun. Okay, linking the waffle machine with the thing that I bought. To el hombre que, and here's our relative pronoun que, el hombre que cocina las langostas es Emilio. The man who cooks the lobsters is Emilio. Who in English, que in Spanish are relative pronouns. Okay. This is just kind of a minor detail here. If que is used in a question, usually it gets an accent mark, but it does not get an accent mark as a relative pronoun. So you don't need accent marks on any of these. I probably wouldn't take off for it anyway, but just kind of an FYI. All right. So quien. Quien is more complicated. We kind of got three different rules we're going to look at for times when you could use quien. Okay. First of all, quien only refers to people. Only to people, ever. And rule number one really is it's usually used after a preposition. So if it refers to people and it's used after a preposition, then it's going to be quien. Okay, I already mentioned this, but it could be the singular quien or the plural quienes. And the same rules about accents apply to quien. So they're mostly not going to have accents here in this chapter when we're using them as relative pronouns. Okay, so here's our example. Eva, a quien conocí anoche, tiene tres orejas. This is Eva, who I met last night, has 3 ears. Okay, so quien right here, here's our relative pronoun. And the reason we used quien is, number one, are we talking about a human being? Yes, Eva. Number two, did it come after a preposition? Yes, a is our preposition. So like if this had been just a blank space and we'd been trying to make a decision, we would have said, yes, it's a human being. Yes, it comes after a preposition. So we're going to use quien. Here's another example. Son los chicos de quienes me hablaste. Are they the boys who you talked to me about? Are they the boys that you talked to me about? Okay. So you can see quienes is our relative pronoun here. Again, if we couldn't see that, if that were a blank, how would we know? Well, are they the boys? Boys. So we're talking about human beings? Yes. Does it come after a preposition? De? Yes. So quienes is our word, also because it's more than one person. That's why we made it plural. Okay? So human being comes after a preposition. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2. Quien is sometimes used instead of que in clauses that are set off by commas. I'm going to also add here again, this is still only referring to human beings. If it's not a human being, none of this matters. Okay? So here's our example. La chica quien juega al baloncesto es en su segundo año de secundaria. Okay? The girl who plays basketball is in her second year of high school. Here's our relative pronoun, quien. If this were blank, how would we have figured it out? We would have said, well, are we talking about a human being? Yes, the girl. Is this a phrase that's set off by commas? Yes, comma, comma. Therefore, we're using quien. There's our thought process, okay? The new student, who is Cuban, lives with the Suarez family. Okay? Quien, relative pronoun. How did we know that? Well, are we talking about a human being? The new student. Yes, human being. Is it set off by commas? Yes, it's set off by commas. Therefore, quien was our answer. Okay? And rule number 3, once again, keeping in mind that the very first thing we need to think about is this is still only with human beings. If it's not a human being, we don't use quien at all. Okay, but if we're still talking about human beings, then rule 3, when the pronoun refers to a person and is the subject of the main clause in the sentence, use quien. This is a little confusing, but I have a kind of a shortcut, at least for our purposes in this class, that you can use, okay? So this sentence says, it was Martin who broke the mirror, okay? So what's going on here is you have, it was Martin. You have a verb here and a noun here, Martin. So Martin is the subject that goes with this verb, it was, okay? But that's not the main clause of the sentence. What we're worried about is who broke the mirror, okay? Now, what's the subject of broke the mirror? You might think it's Martin, but Martin already goes with this first verb, fue, it was. So the only subject left to us is the word quien, okay? So it is the subject of the sentence, and therefore rule 3 here applies. We're using quien. Now that all might have been really confusing, okay? So the shortcut that I have for you is this. Basically, if this sentence starts off with the verb ser, then that's kind of your clue that this rule number 3 is happening here. Okay, I'll show you another example. It was the 3 women who saved the dog. Okay, fueron is a conjugation of ser. So that's kind of our shortcut rule that to make you think that this rule is probably applying, right? So it starts with ser. Are we talking about human beings? The 3 women. Yes, we're talking about human beings. Therefore, we chose quienes as our relative pronoun. Okay, so a little shortcut for you there. I guess I'll show you these examples of when it wouldn't work. Okay, this says, the players that played for the Knights are tall. Okay, sentence doesn't start off with ser, and so even though we're talking about human beings, the players, our relative pronoun is que. We don't use quien because, again, shortcut, it didn't start with the verb ser. Okay, one more example of it there. The students that passed the exam studied. Are we talking about human beings? Yes, but it didn't start with ser. So we used que and not quien. Okay. All right, final relative pronoun is loque. Loque doesn't talk about a specific noun. That's what sets loque apart. Okay, it's not a specific noun. It refers to an idea or a situation or a vague past event or something like that. Can be translated to English as what, that which, or the thing that. Okay, so lo que me molestaba era el calor. The thing that bothered me was the heat. Okay, now when you start the sentence off, the thing that bothered me, that is an idea. Okay, even though we find out at the end that it's the heat, it's an idea that is not it's not like a solid idea, right? It's kind of a vague idea. That's where we get loke. The second sentence here, I don't want to return. Sorry, what this means in English is I don't want to do again that which I did yesterday. Okay, that one for sure. That which I did yesterday is not clear at all. It is not a clear concept. It is a vague past event, and that's what told us it was loke. All right, things that are unclear, things that are not defined. Let's look at a few examples. If you wanted to pause the video here and try these on your own, that'd be a good time. Otherwise, I'm going to go into the answers now. Okay, we got this first sentence. Jacqueline, with whom I watched the movie, is very pretty. Okay, first question we got to ask ourselves, is this a human being? Yes, Jacqueline. Second question, does any of our three do any of our three Kien rules apply here? The answer is yes. It's the commas one, right? Comma, comma. This is going to be Kien. Jacqueline con Kien. Okay. Number two. What you did last night was very stupid. What you did last night was very stupid. Okay. First question. We talking about a human being? No. Okay. We're talking about what you did last night. Second question. Is this a clearly defined thing? And again, no. Okay, it's a vague idea. Therefore, this one is going to be loke. That which you did last night was very stupid. Loke. Three, the people to whom I gave the dog are very nice. The people to whom I gave the dog are very nice. First question, are we talking about human beings? Yes, we are. People. Second, do any of our Kien rules apply here? Yes, it comes after a preposition, a. So the answer is quienes. Why quienes? Because we're talking about more than one person. Had to make it plural. So quienes is our answer for three. Number four, the women who work for Megan are hardworking. The women who work for Megan are hardworking. Okay. First question, are we talking about human beings? Yes, the women. Second question, do any of our Kien rules apply? Well, it's not set off by commas. It doesn't have a preposition right in front of it. And kind of our cheating rule for number three, it didn't start with ser. So no, none of our Kien rules apply. Therefore, even though we were talking about human beings here, we have to go with the word que. So las mujeres que trabajan. Okay, because none of our Kien rules worked. Next, you should attend the game in which I'm going to play. You should attend the game in which I'm going to play. Okay, so first question, are we talking about a human being? No, we're talking about a game. Okay, so it's definitely not going to be Kien. Do we clearly know what we're talking about? Yes, we're talking about a game. So it's not going to be loke. It's not vague. The answer is just going to be K again. Okay, this is an example of, you always got to ask yourself, is it a human being? Because you see we have a preposition here, but that doesn't mean it's going to be Kien, because we're not talking about a human. All right, second to last one. The car that I got into is new and expensive. The car that I got into is new and expensive. Are we talking about a human being? No. Are we talking about a clearly defined thing? Yep, it's a car. Therefore, again, we're going to go with K. Okay? And finally, this last one. It says more light, más luz, more light is what can improve this house. More light is what can improve this house. Okay. Are we talking about a human being? No. Here's where it's a little confusing again. Are we talking about a clearly defined thing? You might think yes. You might think we're talking about light, right? But you see the rest of the sentences. What can improve this house? What can improve this house is an idea. Okay, so the answer to this one would be low K. Even though we know that light is the idea for what can improve the house, the concept, what can improve the house, is an idea. Okay, so it's not a clear, solid subject, so we go with low K on that one. All right. There's some more examples on here. I'm sending you these notes. You can take a look at those if you want. The last thing I want to talk about here real quick is some kids have been asking me about extra credit. So I've got an assignment for you, totally optional. If you'd like to do this, it'd be 5 extra credit points. The assignment would be to make a flow chart for this lesson. This is the thing, some of you might remember I mentioned this earlier in the year. Evan Backus made a flow chart last year, I think. It was really helpful. So I'm going to give you the same opportunity here. If you can think of a flow chart for basically how you should think about working on these sentences to get the right answer, right? And for those of you who don't know, flow chart looks something like this. This will be a silly example here. Should you eat a donut? Well, first, do you have a donut? If yes, eat it. If no, get a donut and then eat it, right? So it's kind of like a series of things to think about to help you get to a decision. And that's what you would need to do for this lesson. So starting off, I'll even give you the first one. The first one, obviously, that you should think about if you're making a flow chart for this lesson, where the concept is, should I use K, Kien, or low K? First thing you should think about is, are we talking about a human being or not, right? So if you want to make a flow chart for this lesson, you can get 5 extra credit points. It would need to be neat, like not on lined paper, like blank white paper, or you could even probably do it on a computer and send it to me that way. But it needs to look nice and neat and presentable. It's going to be due by no later than this coming Monday, which is the 4th. So Monday the 4th at 11:59 p.m. is when I would still accept it. And and when you send it to me in an email, please just make the subject of that email extra credit so it's easy for me to tell what it is. That would be helpful. Okay. If you have any questions on that, you can ask me about it through email or come to a Zoom session. But that is the optional assignment. All right. So this has been Relative Pronouns, and good luck on your homework.